think for a moment. Jesus ascended. We know that. But what's the implication of that for right now? What is he actively doing? We often focus on the cross, the resurrection, pivotal moments, no doubt. But what about the ongoing story?
That's really the compelling question, isn't it? Today we're exploring this concept of the heavenly sanctuary and what Scripture reveals about Christ's present vital ministry within it.
Okay.
And how his atoning work continues, to shape our relationship with God.
Okay, the heavenly sanctuary. It sounds like, well, more than just a place. What exactly are we uncovering from our sources today?
Exactly. We're diving into the biblical idea of a real heavenly sanctuary, a central and frankly significant place where Christ, in his role as our high priest, is actively ministering.
Right. And right from the start, it's kind of key to understand the particular perspective we're bringing to this, isn't it?
Absolutely. Crucial, really. Our understanding here is framed by what Dr. Timothy Jennings calls the design laws of God.
Design laws. Explain that a bit.
Think of it this way. Just as there are inherent laws governing the physical universe, there seem to be fundamental principles governing spiritual life and our relationship with God, rooted in love.
Okay. Like built-in principles.
Exactly. So our focus will be on understanding the heavenly sanctuary and Christ's work through this lens, these inherent divine principles. We're setting aside for this discussion specific interpretations like Ellen G. White's writings or the doctrine of the investigative judgment.
Got it. So focused on these core principles.
Yes. Focus on God's laws as inherent principles of life and restoration. Our goal is really to offer a clear, biblically rooted grasp of Christ's current activity in this heavenly sanctuary. And maybe most importantly, what that signifies for your personal connection to God, your access to his grace and restorative power.
All right, let's immerse ourselves. Christ as high priest in the heavenly sanctuary, that seems to be the central pillar here.
It really is.
How does the Bible itself lay the groundwork for this idea of his ongoing work, this continuation of atonement?
Well, the letter to the Hebrews is just foundational here. Hebrews 9 states pretty unequivocally that Jesus didn't enter a physical sanctuary made by human hands.
Right, the earthly copy.
Which was merely a copy, exactly. But he entered into heaven itself now to appear in God's presence on our behalf.
On our behalf, now.
Yes, now. And this isn't suggesting a fleeting visit. It really denotes an ongoing ministry where Christ continuously applies the benefits of his sacrifice. It's the present reality of his saving work.
So it's not just a static historical fact, like he went to heaven, done. It's dynamic, present activity.
Precisely. Very much active. And Hebrews 4, verses 14-16 builds right on this. It encourages us to approach God's throne of grace with confidence. Because we have this high priest, Jesus, who intimately understands our weaknesses, he gets it. He's there right now, offering mercy and grace precisely when we need it.
That really shifts the picture, doesn't it? From maybe a distant ruler to someone we can actually approach.
Exactly.
And it's a really comforting thought, that kind of representation.
It is.
Then you have Hebrews, which further emphasizes the permanence, the enduring nature of his priesthood.
Because he lives forever.
Exactly, because Jesus lives forever, his priesthood is permanent. This means he possesses the power to completely save those who draw near to God through him.
Completely.
Yes, and the verse explicitly tells us he perpetually lives to intercede for them.
Okay, let's unpack that word, intercede.
Yeah.
Sometimes that sounds like begging a reluctant judge.
Right. And that's a common misconception. But in this framework, what's fascinating is understanding this intercession not as pleading with a reluctant God, but more as the ongoing administration of the cure for sin. He's applying the remedy, like a doctor administering medicine that's already available.
That's a great analogy. It almost mirrors, in a way, the high priest's role in the Old Testament, mediating between God and humanity, right?
Yeah, it does feel like a fulfillment of that.
Exactly. Christ's work in the heavenly sanctuary fulfills and frankly transcends the symbolic role of the earthly high priest.
Right.
In the Old Testament, the high priest offered sacrifices, interceded for the people. Now, Christ is enacting this on a far grander, more effective scale in heaven itself. In fact, Hebrews 8 tells us plainly that the services in the earthly sanctuary were just a shadow, a blueprint, if you will.
A blueprint. I like that.
Of this ultimate heavenly reality where Christ is currently ministering.
A blueprint pointing to the real structure. So let's delve deeper into that symbolism then. How do the events, the objects, the rituals of the earthly sanctuary help us understand Christ's work in the heavenly one?
Well, the earthly tabernacle was just incredibly symbolic, packed with meaning. Consider the most holy place, that inner sanctuary, where the high priest would enter only once a year on the Day of Atonement. Leviticus 16 details that.
Okay.
That single annual entry was a powerful, visual representation of Christ's singular entry into the greater and more perfect heavenly tabernacle.
And Hebrews really draws that specific connection for us. It doesn't leave it implied.
Oh, directly. Hebrews 9 verses 11 and 12
Yeah.
specifically states that Christ entered this superior and perfect tabernacle explicitly not crafted by human hands.
Right. Not the copy.
And he achieved eternal redemption not through the blood of animals, but through his own precious blood. It's a clear thread connecting the earthly ritual to the heavenly substance.
It really is like God provided a tangible sort of scaled-down model to help us grasp something way beyond our immediate experience.
Precisely. You go back to Exodus 25, verses 8 and 9, and you see God's instruction to Moses. Construct the sanctuary so that God could dwell among his people. But as Hebrews 8 reiterates, this earthly structure was a representation, a copy, a shadow of the heavenly one.
Just a shadow.
Yeah. And the rituals, the sacrifices, they weren't just arbitrary rules to follow. They were symbolic expressions of God's fundamental law, the law of love, in action.
How so?
They demonstrated the cost of violating that love, the seriousness of sin, but also the means of restoration back into harmony with that law.
So the sacrifices weren't simply about punishment then, but about illustrating the depth of the problem and the depth of the solution needed.
Exactly. I think that's key. The sacrificial system powerfully conveyed the profound seriousness of sin, how it disrupts God's design, and the immense cost required for atonement, for healing.
Okay.
And the sanctuary as a whole, the entire system, embodied God's ultimate intention, the means by which he would restore his creation back to its original loving design. It was a picture of hope and restoration.
That context makes the idea of ongoing atonement and intercession in the heavenly sanctuary feel much more purposeful, not just a legal transaction ticking a box, but an active process of healing and restoration.
Precisely. That's the core of it. And Hebrews 9, verses 24 to 26, clarifies that Christ entered heaven itself to appear now in God's presence for us.
For us, present tense.
Yes. And he didn't enter to offer himself repeatedly, like the earthly priests did with their sacrifices year after year after year.
Right, that was constant repetition.
His sacrifice was singular, once for all, perfect. And now, in heaven, he continuously applies the benefits of that perfect sacrifice. It's an ongoing application.
And that's where his role as our intercessor comes fully into focus then. That application is the intercession.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Christ serves as our ongoing intercessor in heaven. You look at 1 John 2, verses 1 and 2. It beautifully portrays Jesus as our advocate with the Father.
Advocate, like a defense attorney.
Sort of, but maybe even more intimate. When we falter, when we sin, he is there, presenting his perfect sacrifice, his perfect life on our behalf. But think of it less as convincing a reluctant father.
Right, we talked about that. So it's less about changing God's mind, which is already for us, and more about ensuring the continuous effectiveness of Christ's act for us.
Precisely. Well said. Now, it's vital to grasp the nature of this intercession, especially through that design laws lens we mentioned.
Okay, bring it back to that.
This intersection can be understood as the ongoing administration of divine healing. Christ, as the ultimate healer, applies the restorative power of his sacrifice, the antidote to sin, if you will, to all who come to him in faith.
The administration of healing, I like that.
Yeah. And this continuous ministry is what transforms believers, progressively restoring us to God's image, which is the embodiment of those design laws of love and selflessness. It's a restorative process.
And this continuous work, this restorative process happening right now in the heavenly sanctuary also has profound implications for the final resolution of sin, the ultimate restoration of everything.
Absolutely. It's all connected. Revelation 11 gives us this stunning glimpse into the heavenly temple where the Ark of the Covenant is seen.
Wow.
This imagery directly links the final judgment, the ultimate resolution of sin, to the heavenly sanctuary and Christ's active ministry there. It suggests this is the sort of central location for this final act of divine justice and restoration.
Revelation can feel a bit, well, highly symbolic sometimes. How does that vision connect practically to this idea of a final judgment?
That's fair. Think about Revelation 14, verses 6 and 7. It issues this universal call to fear God and give him glory because the hour of his judgment has arrived.
Okay.
Now, rather than getting bogged down in specific interpretations of the timing, consider the nature of this judgment. It seems to be the ultimate outworking of God's justice and love.
Justice and love together.
In finally eradicating sin and fully restoring his creation. It's the final act in the drama of redemption, and it seems centered, symbolically at least, in the heavenly sanctuary.
So again, it's not just about, say, dispensing punishment, but about a complete and final restoration of cosmic order
Yeah.
based on God's design of love.
Precisely. But the ultimate purpose, viewed through this lens, isn't simply condemnation. It's the final removal of sin and all its effects, the complete restoration of God's original design, and the reestablishment of perfect loving harmony throughout the universe.
Wow.
The heavenly sanctuary, in this understanding, serves as the focal point for this ultimate triumph of God's love and justice.
Okay. So to kind of summarize our deep dive into the heavenly sanctuary, especially viewed through this lens of God's design laws, what are the key insights for us, for the listener, to really hold on to?
The core takeaways, I think, are these. First, Christ's high priestly ministry isn't just history. It's an ongoing reality right now in the heavenly sanctuary.
Okay. Ongoing reality.
Second, the earthly sanctuary, with all its intricate rituals, wasn't just random rules. It served as a powerful, tangible illustration, a blueprint of this heavenly reality in Christ's restorative work.
The blueprint. Got it.
Third, atonement and intercession aren't isolated moments in the past. They're a continuous process facilitated by Christ's active ministry there, applying the cure. And finally, the heavenly sanctuary is inextricably linked to the ultimate resolution of sin and the complete restoration of God's creation according to his original loving design. It's where the story culminates.
And how does grasping this perspective, this ongoing active view, how does that enrich our faith, our understanding of what Christ is doing?
Well, I think understanding Christ's continuous ministry in the heavenly sanctuary provides a much deeper appreciation for his present work on our behalf. It's not just something he did, but something he is doing.
Right now.
Right now. It offers assurance of his constant intercession, his constant application of the remedy, and the ongoing power of his atoning sacrifice. It provides a really powerful and present foundation for our faith and, crucially, our direct access to God's grace and healing.
This has been a truly illuminating exploration. It really does shift the understanding, doesn't it? From maybe a completed historical event to an active present reality of Christ's work for us.
I hope so. That's the goal.
So for you, the listener, maybe I can leave you with this thought to mull over. Considering this ongoing ministry of Christ in the heavenly sanctuary, this active administration of healing, how might your understanding of your daily access to God be transformed?
Good question.
And if the earthly sanctuary really served as a model, a blueprint of this heavenly reality, what aspects of your current relationship with God, your experience of his grace, might actually reflect this grand, continuous work of restoration happening right now? It's something truly profound to consider.